we've explored a wide range of impactful drone applications, from medical drone deliveries to precision agriculture to disaster response. But in order to do all of these applications effectively, we need to be able to fly beyond visual line of sight, or BVLOS. In many countries, one of the biggest barriers to enabling BVLOS operations is the absence of a functional UTM system, or unmanned traffic management system. The challenge, of course, is that building a fully robust UTM system is expensive and complex. Meanwhile, the need for BVLOS operations is here now. So in today's conversation, we're really going to focus on how do we strike that balance. Do we need to develop a full UTM system now to move forward with BVLOS? Or are there alternative paths that we can implement that still ensure safety, scalability, and impact? To get us started, we're going to have our keynote speaker, Konrad Gorski. Konrad is the manager and SME at PwC's Global Center for Excellence in Drone and Geospatial Technologies. He specializes in UAS, counter-UAS, UTM systems, drone regulations, stakeholder engagement, and advanced air mobility initiatives. With experience across geographies, he supports public and private clients in strategic development related to drone technology. Konrad is also experienced in collaborating with development organizations such as the World Bank to support drone ecosystem development in emerging regions. So we're going to welcome Konrad virtually. Thank you.
From even remotely, I'm happy to be together with you today. So let me start with the presentation. Let me share the screen so you can see my presentation. I believe that would work. All right. Shall I share it on my site? Is that visible? Okay, so let me start with the presentation. As Kat mentioned, I'd like to focus a bit on the UTM systems and the idea behind it, and maybe just to start and let you know why I am here and actually what we do as a team and what perspective I bring today is at PwC we have our Global Center of Excellence, the Drone Powered Solutions, and we fully focused on the different kind of technologies around drone industry with various perspectives, but including unmanned traffic management systems, as well as the urban air mobility and advanced air mobility. We mainly focus on regulations and strategies and working with different stakeholders on drone delivery, drones for good, air taxis, or advanced air mobility, as well as UTM and EU space in Europe, as we call it. And we mainly provide strategic advisory. So today I would love to share with you a few insights and our view and perspective on that market. So looking at the key trends that shape the UAS industry today, as we see it and as we observe at majority of countries and geographies across the globe, is that the professional drone solutions and the pace of adoption has accelerated significantly in recent years. So there are a few clear and important trends and challenges that needs to be observed. So first is a UTM, the Unmanned Traffic Management System. So we have a growing number of drones, but as Kat already mentioned, it's not imperative to have a fully implemented UTM system to push the industry forward. What we actually need is a well-organized baseline of basic services. Another one is the long-haul and autonomous flights, and it's both on the technology side and regulations that often lag behind the technology developments. However, the possibilities that the drone platforms bring are significant today. On the other front, it's drone deliveries that will most likely drive the volume of operations in the future, and urban or advanced air mobility for passenger transport, be it short haul or regional. On the side, we also have the maturity of production and implementation of technologies. We see more and more machine learning and AI technologies in data analysis automation, but also unmanned technology operations. And of course, the liberalization of regulations. The industry would like to innovate, and there needs to be the space for them to actually innovate and move things forward. On the number of drones, we also publish a lot of industry reports, and based on our market view, the airspace in the next years will undergo a really critical and substantial change, and the number of drones will increase significantly. This trend is clearly visible, and everyone across the globe expects it. So in our view, by 2029, there will be more or less 28 million drones in operations. It's really a significant number that will make the low altitude airspace congested. The market growth in terms of all drone services will grow by that time 2 times, with quite an impressive growth of 14% averaged a year. So we expect this market to grow really quickly, and it's a really significant challenge, especially for the regulators and public stakeholders such as civil aviation authorities and air navigation service providers, to make this growth sustainable and to make airspace safe and well integrated. On the UTM definitions and understanding side, I think that UTM is a very multifaceted term, and it can be associated and it can be understood in multiple ways. It can be associated with various meanings and perspectives. So, for instance, you can think first about the ecosystem, where we have the drone operators, of course, who needs to fly the drones and use and have access to UTM services. But then we have ministries and all the government agencies like infrastructure, transport, digital affairs, telecommunications, aviation, of course, and so on. Then the 2 key stakeholders that are quite universal across various countries and geographies, which typically are civil aviation authorities and air navigation service providers, sometimes working together, sometimes working a bit separately, hand in hand. Then we have the military stakeholders. We observe it here in Europe because of the war situation in Ukraine. The cooperation with military air services is also critical. Then, depending on the country, it can be local and federal administration. And last but not least, we have different service providers that will actually build the services, the UTM systems, the supplementary data providers, telecoms, providing their infrastructure and connectivity to the system. We all, or they all together, build this ecosystem for the future, and it should be also understood as part of the UTM effort. On the functions, it's mainly safety for the manned aviation to make things work together, and commercial aspect for unmanned aviation to actually be able to provide the service with drones in a safe and sustainable manner. On the roles and services, there should be, and typically there will be, a centralized CISP or FIMS, depending on the region, so the central mind behind all this UTM system, versus the market-oriented service providers that will deliver different kind and tiers of the services. Of course, in Europe we have use-based services. There's a specific structure behind that, but each region and each country, be it FAA in the States or use-based in Europe, Australia, Canada, also we see a lot of initiatives in Asia and the Middle East. The structures can be different, but the frameworks and the benchmarks are becoming more clear. And on the system side, the technical side, of course, is the core UTM that needs to be delivered at some point. It's mainly for the ANSPs to care about it. We also have quite a robust view on the circular nature of this UTM, and we like to think about it as a demand-driven thing. So it's an interconnected nature of multiple factors, and we believe that advanced air mobility, mainly with drone deliveries and passenger flights, will drive the demand for the UTM in the future. So starting from the gray element, we start here with the AAM as a scale provider. I mean, in the future, the long term. Then, in order for all this to happen, there's a necessity of BVLOS-driven regulations. So we need to have long haul and potentially autonomous and automated flights in the future. But in order to have that, we need to have BVLOS dependency on UTM. So to enable BVLOS at scale, there must be at least the foundational UTM services baseline, not everything at once, but just a baseline that will allow operators to fly BVLOS. Then we switch to systems and infrastructure. And this establishment of UTM requires integrated systems and a lot of communication and organization between different stakeholders. Then we go to demand for drone services. So there needs to be a business viable and financially sufficient scheme about clients wanting to utilize and buy the services. And finally, we have the UTM financial sustainability. So of course, UTM would be most likely partly public effort, but it needs to be financially sustainable in order to drive the whole circle. So on the advanced air mobility side right now, we believe there are a few key elements or solutions that need to be deployed, starting from transparent legislative solutions, then the R&D projects, implementations, testing, for instance, the CSAR joint undertaking here in Europe, just as an example. Then the efficient airspace management systems that in an ideal scenario in the long term should be somehow integrated on the UTM and ATM side. It's not that easy technically, but they should at least speak to each other at some point. Also a safe and certified VTOL platforms. This is a long-term play, but we already see it happening both for the cargo drones, heavy cargo drones, and also the passenger eVTOLs. And the last one, ground infrastructure, and it's both for vertiports, the passenger flights, but also delivery stations, logistics hubs that can be heavily automated in the future. So the question again here is, can we test and deploy these solutions without the full readiness of these elements? Yes, we can, and it's happening across the globe. We observe it. We can leverage the current regulatory frameworks and do a lot of things within these regulations already. But the ultimate goal would be to develop and have all these elements ready in the future. There's also a few public concerns and risk associated with AAM that we observe across the globe, like noise and visual pollution. People sometimes don't want to fly, don't want to have this delivery drones flying over their homes and so on. Is the safety thing, the privacy. On the risk side, people see the potential reduction of jobs, environmental protection, and even the affordability of the service. So it should also business-wise should be affordable to as much people as it can. There are a few benchmarks and leading organizations across the globe. The list grows bigger, but let's see, we have the two main frameworks that are being developed right now. The first one is led by EASA here in Europe. Then individual member states are implementing it. For instance, Poland with PANSA and their UTM systems, basic line, but it's already happening. Then we have the FAA in the US, and we have ICAO also bringing potentially in the future some standard ways of implementing the systems in terms of UTM and AAM. There's also Canada, Australia. We see a lot of things happening in the Middle East, and of course here in Asia. That is also the topic of that forum. This is a very dynamic scene. If you would like to see more insights and our perspectives on the market, and we have a perspective on the global market, feel free to go to pwc.com/drones. You will get a full report on the UTM. I'm very happy to share it with you. Please go through it. We also will deliver you with more reports in the future. And conscious of time, I would just like to thank you so much. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to speak to you today. I wish you a great forum and a great conference and a pleasant rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Conrad. And with that, we're going to welcome the rest of the panelists to the stage. So we're going to start with Mr. Ankit Kumar, who is the founder and CEO of Sky Air Mobility. Mr. Harishi Balal, co-founder and lead developer at Open Skies Aerial Technology, OpenUTM. Mr. Ajun Pradhan, CEO of Aerotech Bhutan. Mr. Muhammad Alaf, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation. Mr. Mukesh Raj Dahal, Air Traffic Controller, Civil Aviation Authority, Nepal. And joining us virtually, Mr. Rakesh Sratha, the researcher at the Resilient Research Institutes of Sweden. Thank you. And would it be possible to also get Rakesh up on the screen, or is it only when he speaks? Only when he speaks? Okay. Great. Well, to get us started, we're going to go through and get a quick 2-minute intro from each of our panelists. So, Ankit, if you would like to begin.
Thank you, Kat. Good morning to all of you. My name is Ankit Kumar. I'm the founder and CEO at Sky Air. Sky Air is from India, and we were sort of writing a book into the future of mobility on how things are being done and how things should be moving from A to B, starting from logistics and eventually aerial taxis and every other thing that today India is poised to grow over and sort of try to bring in forward. We are also, there's no data around it, but we are also the largest drone delivery company in Asia outside of China. We have been doing deliveries in multiple cities, in multiple rural areas, semi-urban areas, carrying medical samples, medicines, e-commerce items, and quick commerce items in cities like Gurugram, which happens to be the first one in the world to adopt drones to that extent. We did about 1.2 million deliveries in the past 1 year. And by the need of it, we went and we developed our own UTM, which was launched by our Minister of Road and Highways and Transportation in India in 2023, enabling everybody in the country, every drone operator, every pilot in the country to start utilizing and getting those data fronts, which we'll deep dive in more detail towards the session. But the need of it to conduct more and more flights and to do deliveries in a semi-urban to urban environment created the UTM, which could cover up or which could mitigate the risk which are associated with the ground and air both. And today, our UTM is fueling and having access with over 4 to 5 air traffic controllers with whom we are coordinating on a regular basis. And we're trying to upscale that as well in the country. And looking forward to this entire session.
Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rishi, and I run a company called Open Skies, and I'm also the founder and the technical lead for what is known as the Open UTM project. Open UTM, as you may know, is a project on GitHub. We now have UTM standards, and Open UTM implements it. So my work is in the intersection of aviation regulations, and drone technology. Because it's open source, Open UTM is used really in 3 or 4 ways at this moment. BVLOS is coming. We don't exactly know when, but it's coming soon. So Open UTM is used by operators who want to operate BVLOS or have an interest in BVLOS operations. It is used by companies there. It is also used by a lot of research institutes who want to do research on UTM, who have to understand how UTMs work. In addition, nowadays you have courses on things like AAM and advanced mobility, and so they need to understand what UTM is, so Open UTM is used there. And finally, Open UTM is of interest to regulators as well, because at the end of the day, aviation is a safety-focused system, and when somebody says, I can deconflict, I can do UTM services, regulators need some assurances that this indeed does what it says it does. And therefore, we are really talking about digital services and digital aviation. Tools like OpenUTM can help in verification, monitoring, audits of the airspace. And so, as Conrad mentioned, it's a growing field. BVLOS is coming. And as far as this conference is concerned, I'm also on the board of directors for an organization called the Global UTM Association. And so it's an association of all the companies doing UTM activities. GUTMA is the name. So if you have an interest in that, please come talk to me about that as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Uh, Good morning, everyone. This is Anuj Pradhan from Bhutan. By education, I'm an aerospace engineer specialized in UAV technology and rocket propulsion. I'm currently serving as the CEO and also the co-founder for Aerotech Bhutan and managing director for Bhutan Flying Labs. At Aerotech Bhutan, we leverage drone technology in various industrial application sector. And also we provide, human capacity development trainings to various government agencies. We have research and development sector, and also handle the supply chain management for DJI in and around the country. As managing director for Bhutan Flying Labs, we are basically focusing on the, having drones for good, for the community, encouraging the local talents, and also giving back to the community. And additionally, I'm also the entrepreneur in residence in Bhutan for Lemon Ideas India, and also the secretary to Young Boom community-based organization in Bhutan. So there are so many things that we have been doing in Bhutan, and then it's always about giving back to the community. And Aerotech indeed was born out of the vision of His Majesty, the King, to digitalize the country. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mohammad Afla. I'm from Maldives, and I'm the Deputy Minister for Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation in the Maldives. The ministry is looking after the civil aviation authority in the Maldives, as well as Maldives Airports Company, and we look after the regulations and the laws of the traffic in the Maldives. So UTM is collaborated with civil aviation and the Maldives Airport Company, as well as the Maldivian Defense Forces. So we look after all these things through the ministry.
Good morning, Namaste. My name is Mukesh Rajdal. I'm working in Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal since 21 years. And I work as a air traffic controller around 12 years, in 10 years in Kathmandu Tower and 2 years in the remote area, Jumla. And after that, I am currently working in the airspace management and ATS affairs in headquarters Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal. So, and regarding the drone technology and the UAM, I was the member of this current, SOP or the manual of this made by Ministry of Home Affairs in Nepal. So we made this in 5 years back, and currently this is the only one, regulations in Nepal, and that is one document. And we started the unique identification number also to verify the drone and to maybe to identify if somewhere it will found. So that is my background. So we'll see again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Rakesh, can you unmute yourself and give your intro?
Yes. Thank you, Kat and organizers. Namaste and good morning. My name is Rakesh Shrestha. I'm Senior Research Engineer at RISE, which is in Sweden. It is a government-owned institute. Before joining RISE, I did my PhD and postdoctoral in South Korea, where South Korea has a drone test bed. So I was working in UAV as well, this unmanned aerial vehicle, and designing the airspace management. I have industrial and academic experience of more than 1.5 decades. I had also worked as a mobile switching center engineer at Huawei. I am currently a senior IEEE member and have expertise in autonomous vehicle as well as aerial vehicle, including cybersecurity and machine learning. My work on UTM and UAV are mostly focused on airspace management, traffic management, communications such as beyond 5G and 6G, and UTM architecture design based on non-terrestrial communication. I also have ISO 26262 road vehicle functional safety qualification and wanted to utilize a similar kind of functional safety in unmanned aerial vehicles because I haven't seen a similar kind of safety, functional safety in UAVs until now. And because my background is in research, so I have designed automotive safety integrity level type of safety integrity level for these unmanned aerial vehicles. I'm mostly interested in unmanned aerial vehicles, personalized aerial vehicles, and cargo aerial vehicles for last mile delivery. So Sweden is also the first country to implement this heart-related rescue system to save a 70-year-old person in 2020. So I think this drone forum will be very helpful for me as well as for all of us. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to shift into the discussion portion. And so we are lucky to have a diversity of backgrounds and experiences here. So in this section, it's going to be conversational, and we want to kind of dive into go a little deeper of what we're talking about here. So in Conrad's presentation, he talks about the basic foundational levels of the UTM system that is needed to enable BVLOS. Can we get a little bit more specific for the audience of what are those core key components and elements that you see valuable for BVLOS, and maybe what elements are not essential at this time? So Ankit, I'll let you take the floor with that.
Sure, thanks. I'll talk, so there are two elements to this, right? There's a regulatory side and there is a consumer side, which is the drone operators who are going to use this on a regular basis to ensure that the flights are done in a more safer manner. And the regulators have to ensure that there's full compliance to the regulations and the airspace is very safe and segregated with respect to the other manned aviations which are taking off shape. So let me talk more from the consumer front or the drone operator front, because that's been the genesis of what we built as Sky UTM. So when you see there are three key elements to that: planning, accessibility, and monitoring. When we come to planning, as an operator, I need to have a very high level of understanding about each and every data point, which can be terrain, which can be the population, which can be the telecom, where are the blind spots which might come in, and which might disrupt the flight which is taking off, going 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, etc. We have done 104 kilometers BVLOS flight as well, which is a world record in itself, carrying medicines in one of the corners of the country. And the key challenge which starts coming in is about the disconnect which you have during that particular flight. We had about 94% time the telecom connectivity. So you need to change your route over there. And it becomes very crucial from a planning stage, how you're planning your entire mission. If you want that same airspace to be utilized for two-way traffic, you need to ensure there is good amount of vertical and horizontal separation, which is within that particular airspace. Moving on to that, there's a terrain which plays a very vital role when we think about flying in urban environment or semi-urban environment, because it keeps on changing. You have buildings, you have telecom towers, you have power lines, etc. going through. There's a tremendous amount of challenges which comes in that direction. And you have a better amount of terrain data, which typically, we have searched for it and we didn't find anybody else. And that's where we went and we created our own 3D map of the entire city, having precise level of elevation of each and every building in a place like Gurgaon, which we carry, and that's the amount of data which basically goes in, helping you to design a path, helping you to design an air corridor, which is safer, which is more viable, and which is free from any form of static obstacles. There can always be a dynamic obstacles, a bird flying in the corridor, a kite flying in the corridor, etc. Leave it on the equipment, because the detect and avoid systems on the drones have to then act in those circumstances. So that's the planning phase of it, which is super critical. And when you go with that amount of data and build a pathway on how you're going to fly from A to B, I think that instills a lot of confidence in the regulators, because you're backing your story with a lot of data, which is coming into the UTM platform, and you are able to utilize those data from the UTM platform and build your flight plan. The second piece of it is accessibility, which is permissions to the airspace, etc. Now, in India, it's all divided into 3 zones: red, green, and yellow. Green is where you are permitted to fly. Yellow is where you need to do coordination with the air traffic controllers, additional layers of approvals. And red is a prohibited zone, but it's still, if you want to fly, you're working for a government, you want to take additional approvals, you can go and take additional approvals. Now, as you go more towards the red, the complexity of the airspace becomes much higher. And then it requires a lot of data points to validate what you want to do exactly, what the mission is all about. If you're flying in a green zone as well, there's a lot of coordination which goes on with the ground authorities. So even when they are aware about it, so we built the entire infrastructure in such a manner that you have a good planning which is done. The information is passed on to the regulatory authorities, may it be the civil aviation, may it be the defense, may it be the ground authorities, which in this case becomes the police and the district administration. And when all of these authorities have got enough amount of data points and they validate and they approve any single flight which is to take off, then you go to the third part, which is the monitoring, that a drone is taking off, going from A to B, it's following the path which is given. There's a strategic and there is a dynamic deconfliction that you can try to do, although it's not required at this point of time, but more drones take out to the sky. You need to go into the deconfliction module. And deconfliction, a lot of people, as Conrad was saying, a lot of people say about that we have a deconfliction module, but in reality, there are very few companies which have got the deconfliction module. How do you test a deconfliction module? Unless you want to send 2 drones towards each other and ensure that both of them are going to deconflict. How the entire logic works. And I think for us, it was more of need-based, because we had to fly numerous drones. We have a fleet of 33 drones. We have to fly numerous drones in a particular airspace. And when we do that, there are chances that we are utilizing the same airspace with a certain separation which needs to be on vertical and horizontal board. We have done that, flying a drone at 60 meter altitude and a drone at 120 meter altitude in the same direction, in the opposite direction, testing out the deconfliction module as well. And a lot of times it worked, a few times it didn't. And those are the things which basically goes in. So I think these are 3 critical elements. And bestowed on that, I think it develops and builds more confidence even with the regulators to understand and build more use cases based on that. Now, today, Sky UTM, with our own captive requirements, we're conducting about 30,000 flights in a year in different geographies, for government, for semi-government, for private sector. And these 30,000 flights, data, pulling it all together, we built Black Box, which is capturing 255 parameters of the drone. At any given point of time, and it's relaying and building up the trail on how the drone has gone. So in case an incident happens, people talk about the good missions, but there are bad missions as well. And in case an incident happens, you can always refer back to the trail and to the log, which is there in the UTM system, and see what went wrong, what was the reason behind this cause, whether it was a weather challenge, et cetera. And I think there's a lot of comprehensions which can be built. We all can agree that we don't have a perfect system which exists today. It's a very evolving ecosystem which is right now. And with more data, more time, and more exchange of data between the OEMs, between the operators, things are going to become much, much better. So it's an inclusive, diverse ecosystem which is evolving and which is taking shape in that particular manner. That's my take.
No, thank you. I think one point that I'd like to drill down on, I feel like we often think about UTM systems and we think about the technical aspects of it, but I like that you also highlighted the separation of airspace, the other things that we can incorporate. So I'm just curious to know that when you were determining the separation of airspace and some of those types of tactics, was that something that your organization defined, or was that something you worked with the regulatory body to define?
I think the ceiling altitude is defined by the regulatory body, which is 120 meter AGL in India. And how we separate 2 missions is something that we define ourselves. If you ask me today, most of the drone flies that we do, every 3 months, there is a different SOP which we are following. Because it changes. There's adverse weather conditions. There are national security circulars around the 15th August and 26th January, which comes out. You can't fly during those times. There are VIP movements of ministers which happens where you have jammers on their vehicles, which can, in fact, which can interrupt the connection that you have with the drone. So there's a lot of upliftment, there's a lot of upgradation which is required on the tech. We use radio frequency as the primary mode of communication. We changed it later to the 4G, 5G. We encrypted that to ensure that there's limited amount of infringement which possibly could happen. Yeah. Okay, we can't say that is a 100% foolproof system, etc., which exists today. So I think from those perspective and those learnings which came our way when we started flying in, that is where we started building up these modules into the UTM system. Most of the UTM systems do not carry that much amount of thing. For a simple reason is because the technicalities and the airspace part is more considered. The ground risk is limited to the extent of consideration which is taking place over there. I'll give you a short example, like how we innovated with the weather API. You find that most of the UTM companies take weather data from a simple weather API which comes in. Now, a lot of time, those data is not effective because what you're flying is at 120 meters. The data that you're getting is probably at 400 meters, 500 meters altitude, how it's changing, how the wind pattern is changing. And weather has got, I would say, weather has got 70% inclination towards how it can impact your flight and how it can impact your mission. It can be a gust wind, the wind patterns, how it can sway the drone, reducing in times of fog, which happens during the winters in India to a large extent. The QNH, the atmospheric pressure, goes up drastically. Now, what is the impact of that on the motors, on the drone is that if a drone is able to carry, let's say, able to cover a distance of 20 kilometers on a single charge, it was barely able to pull through for 4 kilometers. So that much, how much amount of energy was being drawn by all the motors in that particular context. We set up a SOP that above this QNH, it's not safe for drones to fly. And there are a lot of things, and we built in those entire thing into the UTM system so as to ensure that we have much better data which can come in. We accessed 750 ground mini weather stations in India now, which we have access to, which are on rooftop of my house, different people's house, etc. And those weather data that we get in real time are further analyzed to predict whether in this window when we are planning to do a mission, is it safe or not? So if it's predicting, if the weather engine is predicting that 1 to 2, I can't fly a drone, I'll shut down the drone operation and it'll move to the road operations.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm curious, so back to the original question, what are the core components that are necessary to enable BVLOS operations? I'm curious if any of the other panelists have different opinions or things that you want to add. Feel free to grab the mic and contribute.
Let me start with, firstly, UTM is not one thing. It's not one product. It's a set of services that you enable in the airspace. What that really means is that you can pick and choose what you want to enable. You can start small and then grow. So in this case, let's talk about the hardest thing as far as UTM is concerned in the near term. And the hardest thing as far as UTM is concerned is integration with ATC. That's the hardest thing. And the question of why is it so hard? And the reason is ATC, at the end of the day, is a man-in-the-middle system. The traffic controller is in charge. And UTM is a digital system. So you're trying to merge a man-in-the-middle system, which is, let's say, 100 years old. Some would argue 50 years old. It depends on your perspective, with a digital system. And so integration with ATC is the hardest thing that UTM has to tackle. Now, the question then becomes, what else can you do? And so then you start small and slow, and you manage the airspace in different ways. And so the point being, as far as the easier things are concerned, we have some answers. People have said that remote ID, for example, as a UTM service is an easy thing to do. We have some standards for it, so we can enable that. Flight planning is some other UTM system service that is easy to manage. We have standards for that. We have geozones, geofence, red zones, green zones. That is, let's say, relatively straightforward. We have standards for that. And so the point is, you start to think of UTM in a systematic way, with the hardest thing to be tackled perhaps down the line. You don't run immediately, you crawl, then you walk, and then you run. So you start with the crawling, and we have some services that are already, people have said that they would enable you to crawl, with the ATC integration being the running.
Yeah, my concept about the core components and then the functionalities that every UTM system should have is kind of coinciding about what he mentioned. What we feel is that while I was doing the UTM system project back in Bhutan, so I got this opportunity to read out and have the literature, text review of so many publications. So even Gutma was one of the publications that I went through, and also the ISO standards, which is 23629 chapter 5, which talks about all the international standards that any UTM system should have. So at the time, what I felt was like every country has their own set of regulation, and then also depending on the airspace design that they have, UTM system can be designed as per that. So for now, if I compare the drone operation in Bhutan's airspace and India's airspace, it's totally different. Because Bhutan, we only have around 272 registered drones, and then they don't even fly. There won't be any kind of multiple operations at the same time. So I don't really have to put that function to have a so accurate tactical conflict management for that case. So those type of functionalities can be omitted. But yeah, I can say that maybe 5 to 10 years down the line, we might have thousands of drones operating in this airspace, and then we might need to have that. And as you mentioned about the complexity in integrating the ATM air transport management data to the UTM system, it's what I believe to be the hardest part to be a functionality in every UTM system. In addition to that, what I feel is integration will be easier only if the portion data of the drones operating in the airspace can be given to the ATC. Because ATC is actually the central point in every aviation industry that will be getting all the aviation-related data. Then it will be circulated to the other agencies, other organizations who are regulating the airspace. So I feel that in the earlier stage, depending on the airspace design, maybe the import permit functionality, the flight operation permit functionality, and maybe the drone registration functionality will be the three most important thing to be included as a functionality for the UTM system. In the later part, in the more advanced category, I can say that unmanned aircraft identification, unmanned aircraft tracking system, maybe, and the RIT will be one of the key functionalities in the UTM system. Yeah.
I do think that you highlighted an interesting point, though, about how in some ways it needs to be context specific of the baseline requirements for Bhutan might be different from India because the number of drones flying in your airspace are so drastically different. So you might have more intense requirements than Bhutan does at this time, and so you don't necessarily want to prevent BVLOS operations and wait for all these requirements when it's not really necessary in your context. I would be curious from a Civil Aviation Authority perspective, when you're thinking about enabling BVLOS operations in the Maldives, are there any key requirements in terms of UTM that are important to you all?
Yeah, exactly. In the Maldives, it's totally different from the rest of the Asian countries because Maldives islands are scattered with 1,100 islands. So it is separated. Each island is separated from any other island. So it's one island, one council we have. So what I believe is that we have to transportation. We have a transportation challenges, huge challenges, because 99% of the Maldives is the water, sea. So we used to do the transportation by the speedboats, by the local ferries or things. Now we have the seaplanes. That is the best mode of transportation in the Maldives. So as for the UTF, of course we have the challenges to get integrated with the air traffic control. And since we have like 90 plus seaplane floating platforms in the Maldives, and the seaplanes are operated with VFR. And of course, with this current situation, we need to be very careful to use the UTM system. And for that reason, we are using three ways to get the, of course, a lot of people are using, especially the Maldivians, which we are based on the tourism, and all the tourist resorts, they use the drones for their advertisements and their shows. So for each and every drone that has to be used in the Maldives has to be has to get the permit from three different authorities. One is from the Maldives Defense Forces. The initial permit you have to get from the defense forces, and after attaining that permit, with that permit you have to apply from the civil aviation. So, and then only then the civil aviation will give the permission to operate it. And apart from that, they have, with that permit, they have to apply a map, a chart, exactly the location they will be using the drones, and also they will not be able to fly above 50 feet. And these are the challenges we are facing right now in the Maldives. So we are trying our everybody from the local councils, local governments, and in the ministries, and also the other stakeholders to get the integrated the UTS in the Maldives system.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And Mukesh, we're going to slightly pivot in terms of, coming from the background of being an air traffic controller. I'm curious to know, what do you think is the reality of this integration, or do air traffic controllers have the capacity to be these middlemen in offering UTM services? And if so, like, what kind of tools and what kind of components do you think that air traffic controllers need to have in a UTM to be successful?
Thank you, Kat. Yes, as a traffic controller, and if you ask, and I think I am also a traffic controller 10 years back, not in working position, but I am in the policy level. Anyway, if we visit in any control tower in around the globe, and if you ask for the air traffic controller about the drone, I think they don't want to even hear about the drone. So this is the hazard for the air traffic controller. Yes, they think, yes now. But the situation is changing, technology is coming. So evolving this technology, we cannot avoid this. So as an air traffic controller, we have to cope with this new challenge. So for this, we have to manage the airspace, what we have, for the aviation purpose as an unmanned vehicle purpose. So in that case, I think we have to get this is all for the safety, right? Finally, what we are talking about is all for the safety, right? So for this, to get the safety, I think we have to go for the few strategies to the to mitigate the problem. So I think the first is we have to make the boundary. The boundary is the operational volume for the drone. So if we make a boundary, then the air traffic control and we will be ensure about that particular place. That boundary is the operational volume for the UAV, right? So this is the one strategy. Next strategy will be maybe the operation with the chronology. Like suppose in Nepal case, most of the hilly region airports will be closed in afternoon. Only morning time we can fly there. Otherwise, if we increase our wind, then we cannot fly. So what time of a day, maybe after 12 o'clock or something like that, that chronology would be another strategy. And another strategy could be the time of exposure. Time of exposure, suppose our route is, suppose Kathmandu to Pokhara, there is a route, air route. So aircraft will follow this route. So UAV corridor or flying or UAV flight, what time we will be exposed in that route. So we can calculate this to separate the traffic and the UAV. That could be for the UTM, basic UTM system. If you go for the BVLOS, visual light up site, then you have to do more. You have to do more preparation, more technology. Suppose if you are going beyond visual, then you have to equip your drone with more equipment, like in aircraft, like you have to at least the cheaper one, ADSB, maybe ADSB, or sensor, or you have to, maybe if big drone, then you can get a BHF, or something like that. Or you have to be a detect system to where is the drone and what is the maneuver, like using AI. Using AI, you can detect the maneuver so that what will be happen that if we can detect, then we can guide them again for the next programming. So for that, we have to install the new equipment from the industry side also. They have to prepare drone for the equipped with this equipment. And for the civil aviation or the government side, they have to install some equipment like radar or in the sky we can connect with the satellite by the sky or the ground in the some equipment in the radar or both. You can mix both also. So that kind of strategy will be, if we follow, then we can make the airspace easier for the airplane also and for the unmanned aircraft also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Rakesh, virtually, I want to give you a chance to respond to that question as well. If you have anything to add about the core components of UTM to enable BVLOS.
Yes, actually, I agree with all of the panelists. And to add up more, like because this beyond visual line of sight flight has some challenges. So in coming future, 5G beyond 5G and 6G will fulfill this criteria by applying this non-terrestrial features. 6G has this non-terrestrial feature which help to communicate with UAVs to UAVs, UAVs to UTM, and then UAVs to the satellites. So the beyond visual line of sight can be done to a last mile delivery of the drone or to its destination. And if you allow me to share my screen, then I will. Can you see my screen to add up with the?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, to add up with the management of airspace and safety level, because drone while flying over the population, there is always a risk of safety to the people on the ground, and if it is a personalized aerial vehicle like PAV, then there is a risk and safety to the, we should consider safety to the passenger in the PAV. So I designed the safety level for different kinds of UAV. I quickly discuss about this technical capabilities level. Actually, the technical capabilities level from 1 to 4 is from NASA itself. So I did my research and tried to separate these technical capabilities based on the drone types, weights, their flight distance. And then here you can see like if there is small drones, then they can fly low level like below 400 feet, and then they can fly in like rural areas. If they have to fly in specific areas such as suburban or urban, then they have to take permission from different organizations like our panelists already discussed. And if this drone fly higher altitude from small UAV to higher UAVs or PAVs, then they have to have more rigorous safety integrity level. And as they fly from remote to the dense population, they have capability to fly with high speed, and they have also capability to fly BVLOS with they can fly autonomously. So with this graph, we can see like as the capability increases, the safety level also increases. So I think we should consider this kind of safety level in the future. So this is the thing I want to add up.
Thank you so much. So we just heard the bell, but to summarize, what we've covered here is that UTMs are complex systems that have a bunch of different elements and components, and some elements of the UTM systems are easier to implement than others, and that part of what we need to do is take a context-specific approach and identify, based on what's happening in your country, what are the elements that you want to prioritize as you start building out your UTM system to enable BVLOS operations. So I know we're almost at time, but I do want to give the audience a chance to ask any questions in the last remaining minutes. So if there are any questions for the panelists, please ask them now. Thank you. Any questions, UTM? Like, David, I'm sure you have a question. Okay, well, in that case, we will wrap it up. But if anybody is, oh, yeah. Yes, go.
Sorry for that. I'm going to take this opportunity for what I am hearing from yesterday, that the regulations and it's a tedious to get the permission is the longer, more than 1 month, like that. So in that case, from my country is the innovator young guys, I want to say you guys that the process is longer, yes. And you have to wait for to get the permission, you do it immediate, right? So for this, my message is that for this, you have to build the trust for that. First, you have to build the trust. Because I don't see any policeman in the Japan and UK, but in Nepal or India or somewhere there you can see many policemen. Why? If in Nepal and India, if you like South Asian country, if you have in red light and no policeman, you will cross. Means our development stage. So why people are not? When I was in member of the policy making, the army is not trusting. Police means no. Army has security issue. Police also security, safety, security issue. The communication people have the frequency issue. We have the airspace issue. So why they are delaying? Why they are not forwarding fast? That they want to more trust. They want to more assure in that case. So first you have to build a trust. Maybe one window policy, maybe from the federation. First you filter that application. Then filter, then make a trust. And I want to give one example also, the paragliding in Pokhara. There is the international airport in Pokhara in opening, and we are about to close the paragliding. And they come to me, my office, and I am as an aerospace specialist. Then what is the solution? Then I told them same, make a trust first. Then they invest around 10 million rupees, Nepali rupiah, to make one office with equipped with the paragliding with the sensors. They have we make one operational volume, then they fly the same volume, and I visited there, they do the fantastic work. So we again revive this paragliding in the Pokhara. So this is the case. So first, my message is first, build your trust. First, come on one window policy, make your all UAB and pilots and other processes are trustable, then we'll get the permission within 3 days, I think. That is the case. Thank you very much.
Okay, very quick, 30 seconds. Like, it'll start dinging on us. Yeah.
See, the point that he's mentioning is actually probably even more important than the UTM system itself, which is the way the UTM system is governed. And UTM, aviation is a safety-focused system. They want to make sure that people are safe, that the aircraft is safe. And the private industry, from a UTM point of view, wants to fly and conduct missions and so on. So what he is suggesting is actually a brilliant idea, which is the Drone Federation of Nepal get together and have some kind of a engagement, an ongoing engagement with the Civil Aviation Authority and build that trust. And for anybody who's interested in running a UTM system, more than the technology, the social structure governing this interaction, you're really talking about two different worlds. As I said, one is a man in the middle, safety-focused system, immovable object, and drone technology, which is an unstoppable force. And so these are meeting together, and the way you manage that interaction is more critical than the UTM itself.
And 1 minute again, this morning you see from the Nepali guys that we are giving 400 feet and sometimes we go to 700 feet. So do not violate like this. You come to me, you come to our office, we will give you 800, 1,000, why not, for time being. But do not violate. Make a trust first. Then only you will get the right way. Thank you.
That feels like a great place to wrap up. So we're going to now break for lunch, but first we're going to do the gifts. But so everybody knows, the workshops are going to start at 2 p.m. And in this room is going to be the youth empowerment workshop. In the back room, we're going to continue the UTM discussion. So if you want to continue talking about UTM systems. And then in the front room, we're going to have the drone and data and AI workshop. So I'd now like to welcome Miss Tanju, I'm going to butcher this name, Patrol, the Joint Secretary from the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and Cultural Affairs, to come give our guests their gift. So thank you. Oh, sorry, I didn't read it correctly. No, there we go. And I don't think. Yeah. Mohammed? I think, did you already receive a gift? And thank you for those who joined virtually. And yeah, let's break for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.